My name's Matt Henderson. I'm a teacher, and it's sort of tough to go after that powerful story, so just bear with me. Every time I say I'm a teacher, I don't believe it because it's sort of a strange thing to say for me. But I don't know about you. Does anybody remember high school? Some people do. Anybody not remember high school? Yeah, there's some hands back there. I don't remember high school. I mean, for a variety of reasons probably, but I remember going to the building and being shoved into lockers and that kind of things, but I don't remember really anything that I learned. And in particular, in my Canadian history class in grade 11, I didn't learn anything. And part of that was me. I was a bad student, right? I just didn't apply myself. But also, I don't think I was necessarily engaged. I remember the classroom. I remember going, I can envision sort of the bare walls. I remember the teacher. I remember the worksheets that she would give us, and this was before Word and Windows and stuff like that, so everything was handwritten out, and then there were lines underneath where you were supposed to fill in the answers about something. And I remember the smell and the feel and the taste of these worksheets, right? But I don't remember anything about learning about our colonial past or our future. I wasn't able to reconcile any of the things that have happened in Canada over the last 25,000 years or so. Because I wasn't engaged. And I vowed after that experience to say, I will never do that to kids if I ever happen to teach them, which I didn't think I would at that point in my life. Lo and behold, at some point I say, yeah, I want to become a teacher. And a few years ago, I started asking questions as I started going to teachers college. And some of these, they may seem like silly questions to you, but I sort of started asking, why is everything that we do in the classroom theoretical? Right? There's no application of it. And then I was like, why have we created insular sort of little cultures in institutionalized education? Why do we keep kids indoors, physically or intellectually? Right? Why don't we let them be autonomous, learn some stuff, and then try it out in the real world? And I was like, that's really weird. Anyway, so I started student teaching at Stanley Knowles School. And I had this wicked collaborating teacher, Nick. And he did the best thing in the world for me. He said, here are the keys. I'm going for coffee. I'll see you in 6 weeks. And I had 35 Filipino kids looking at me like, teach me something. And it was grade 8, and I had to teach ancient civilizations in Mesopotamia, right? And I was like, oh no. And I'm trying to remember back to my education in Quebec, where they taught you that Labrador was really part of Quebec. It was really weird. And so I'm like, okay, and I did the same thing. I'm like, here's some worksheet, kids. Yay, Mesopotamia. Okay, this is awesome. And the glazed look, they're like, you're a terrible teacher. And I was a terrible teacher. But one day I was like, Iraq, right? And stuff was happening. Americans were doing dubious things in Iraq, and all these kids lit up and went, oh, wow, yeah, we know about this. And I was like, wait a second, there's something to this. My next year's student teaching, I was in St. James at a school called Bruce. And the teacher there did the same thing. She's like, I'm going for coffee. Here are the keys. See you in 6 weeks. And I had to teach grade 7 social studies. And she said, she said, it's kind of like world issues, this kind of stuff. And I thought, well, what am I going to do here? 35 kids looking at you. And so I decided to do what I do every morning. I look at the BBC Day in Pictures. Anybody look at that? Once in a while? Yeah, once in a while. I do that every morning, right? Just to sort of get warmed up. Somebody over there, very good. And so I started doing that with my kids. At that point, and we're learning about the world in theory, but then they could see pictures. And I saw sort of a synapse fire, and I was like, wait a second, there's something to this. Fast forward a few years, and I start getting okay at teaching, and I'm now teaching grade 9 to 12 social studies, so history, law, economics, that kind of stuff. And I started to think, what if we learn some stuff? What if the students create their own knowledge, right? And then they can actually apply that immediately. So we started doing goofy little things like writing our own books and publishing them. We have a book launch coming up in a couple weeks at McNally where my grade 11 kids can launch a book, do some readings, and teach you about colonialism. They can share their history, their interpretations with you. We built a little radio station, a little FM radio station. No one's from Industry Canada here, eh? But the kids can share their ideas now, no matter how primitive or whatever, on FM, and we stream it as well, and they can do that. They write letters to the editor. Everybody had a teacher, right, where you had to write a letter to the editor. It's not novel, but they do, and they can interact, and they get published, and they talk to the editor, they talk to Winnipeg, they get online, and the dregs of the comments You know, you've ever seen the Winnipeg Free Press site with those comments? Anyway, they're communicating. They've created knowledge, and then they share it. Last year, my kids in grade 9 were like, hey, Mr. Henderson, you should run for Parliament, and we'll create your platform. So we did that. And they created their little platform, and we ran, and there might be a looming by-election coming in Winnipeg South Centre. Perhaps, I don't know. And you know, they had to go to debates. They went door to door saying, these are my ideas, this is my platform, and they affected change. So we bridged the gap between the theory, between the curriculum, and then we applied it. We affected change in our community. And so what's the point of doing this? Well, this does a few things. One, building bridges between the classroom and the community. It engages kids. As soon as you do that, kids show up to your class and like, this is what, Mr. Henderson, get out of the way. I have work to do. I got to make some calls. Do not tell us stories about your kids and your weekend. You're boring. And it's fabulous. The other thing that it does is that kids retain way more. Right? I can talk to them forever. You guys are going to forget me in 20 minutes, right? Because I'm just talking to you. They retain maybe, I think the research says 5%. Totally made that up. But they retain about 5% of the information. But if they teach it, if they make the knowledge and then teach it to you, they retain 90%. You may want to check that, or I don't know. But they retain a lot. Right? And it's really powerful. It also gives them a voice, and it also makes them those little autonomous citizens that we want. And I think that's what education is about. And can you imagine, like, how many kids go to school in Manitoba? Like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands? I don't know, a lot, right? Can you imagine if every kid was working to affect positive change right now in their community, how sustainable and wonderful Manitoba would be? I mean, we've got sweatshops of ideas. And we're not using it. Where it's like, here's a worksheet, right? Or here's the textbook written by whomever. Do the questions at the back, right? And it's like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. And the kids are drooling, and they're not having fun, right? They're not affecting change. And so my challenge is to the teachers, whether you're teaching in a school, whether you're teaching at home, whether you're teaching at McDonald's, or where everyone's a teacher here, is to build that bridge between the classroom or wherever you're teaching people and the real world, because I think that's fundamentally what we need right now, because our world is in a bit of a crisis. I'm going to bring up a couple educators in a moment who do this much better than I do, and I think they're going to knock your socks off. So thank you very much. Thanks very much.